Hey everyone, and welcome back to Life Unpotted. Thanks for joining us today for another episode. We are back in New York City. It is so interesting being here after moving a little over 3 months ago. It's so interesting because we made the big shift and we left New York City and we're back here. I'm back for the holidays and we're hosting an event on Friday, and it's so interesting to come back and kind of start having all these insights about being like, wow, we made the decision to leave what was so comfortable, to leave what was so familiar and venture into the unknown and leave our jobs and leave our careers and start this whole new life. And I'm having so many insights, so processing so much. So I think it's what today's episode is going to be about, just a reflection on what it's been like to make this massive shift in our life and where we are now, all the insights we're having, all the realizations we continue to have. And honestly, probably a lot of inspiration in this one, a lot of inspiring conversation to be had because we are feeling excited. We're feeling like life has aligned with who we are, and we're starting to really watch our true selves unfold. And it's an absolutely beautiful process. So we are more than happy to have you along the journey. Tonight is our community Zoom. So if you have not registered yet, come by. It's a really great time to just chat with the community, really insightful conversations. You don't have to say anything. If you're scared of talking in public, talk to the group. Sometimes it's 4 people, sometimes it's 6 people, sometimes it's 10 people. It's a good opportunity to just continue this conversation in a different setting. So we hope to see you there. And if you enjoy this podcast, if you like this podcast, if you find value and insight in this podcast, review it, rate it, share it, use hashtag #LifeUnpotted, spread the word, put it on your Instagram page because your support really makes all the difference as we continue to grow and evolve. So yeah, we really appreciate it. And we're ready to flow. We're feeling good for the episode. So I'm going to pass it to Daisy. So let's get into it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of change internally, right? We come back to the city we moved from 3 months ago and we look around and we say, oh, everything is the exact same, but it feels so different. Why does it feel so different? Why am I feeling so light and happy and excited? And you look around and everyone's kind of fucking miserable when you're on the streets of New York. Like everyone's just kind of like, I want to get to the next place, or everyone just looks kind of like neurotic and crazy because, I mean, we are as humans neurotic and crazy, but you just really see it because there's no cars. Everyone's just walking around. But I think with all that being said, why does it feel so different? It's because exactly like you said, we took the plunge and we moved. And that was what we needed to do. We needed to make changes. It was something that we were miserable, not because we were in New York. We were miserable because we were lacking challenge and we were lacking any sort of push to grow and to be different than what we were. And the reality is us moving, we did push ourselves. We did grow. And just in 3 months, so much has changed. That's why when we return to New York, we feel different. And to think that if we had an apartment we were going to go home to, I would hate being here. I would hate it. But knowing that I don't live here, it feels freeing and exciting. But I think it's a giant reflection back to myself seeing, oh, okay, you're making changes in your life. You're no longer stuck. You are facing things. You are becoming closer to the person that you've always wanted to be. You're unlearning the idea of who you thought you should always be. And that was a big thing that New York reflected to me was you need to be this particular type of person who is quote unquote hungry to achieve and hungry to work hard and hungry to slave away at something for someone else. And it actually made me miserable and it made me lose touch with who I was. And being away from New York, it's helped me really see that I was never any of those things, and I'm allowing myself to be more of who I am without the constant distractions and reminders outside of myself that I see that I need to be that person. So that is something that it's pretty deep. I mean, I was reflecting on the first time I came to New York, and I was ultimately super stressed the first time I moved here. When I initially moved here, I was in an extreme state of fight or flight. And that persisted for 5 years where I was just constantly so anxious. And it's not until now where I feel like I can kind of dig in and slow down somatically and just understand, it's okay to relax. I don't have to be chasing the next thing. I don't have to be chasing the carrot hanging in front of me on the treadmill, and we're really conditioned to believe that we have to do that we have to be getting the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I don't want to live my life that way. And living in New York City, that is the culture. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But with where I'm at right now, I don't want to partake in that. I'm trying to do the opposite and unlearn needing to have something to be happy. I want to be happy right fucking now because I can be, not because anything outside of me is depicting that. I want to have control over that in a way that I know I'll have no real control over, but it's a huge internal battle. It has nothing to do with my external circumstances and has everything to do with the disciplined work I do on myself. And that's the biggest shift. And then I'll pass it to you, Soph. I feel like the past 5 years and everything leading up to that within school was doing disciplined work for someone else to say, good job. You got an A on this. Good job. You did well on this assignment. We're going to let the boss know. Good job. Like we're taught to be disciplined to make someone else happy. And what I'm trying to learn right now is that I want to be disciplined to make myself happy. And that's going to maybe will not look in the traditional way of working really hard. That might mean slowing down and allowing myself to just relax and to cry and to work through emotions. It might look like to maybe a generational boomer, you're lazy, you're not being productive to society, these things, the stuff. I feel like whenever you say boomer, it has such a connotation to it, but I guess a negative one. But meaning that generation was very in line with following the standards. You were in or you were out. And that's how you were kind of viewed. And I'm over that. I'm over trying to get someone else's approval because that's not necessary to be happy. So that is my long-winded way to open this conversation, is that I am looking forward to further going inward and further deepening my relationship to myself, and from there, those around me who also are willing to deepen their relationship with themselves, because that, in my opinion, is what life is about.
So many thoughts. I have so many thoughts. First thought is nothing wrong with New York City, right? I think New York City is a depiction of the culture that is chasing the carrot. It's chasing something and needs something else. And in the same way we talk about the system, right? We recognize that there is no system. We are the system. So in that same way, if we talk about a societal culture within a city, you kind of realize that those people probably want to break from that too. Not everyone, most people here probably don't even or want to be going down the path or even know how to break from it. And I think an important recognition here is how we all go to school. Like, I just want to really take a moment, because I've been reflecting on this the past, something about flying. Whenever I fly, I have so many insights. And yesterday when we were flying to New York, I was thinking so much about how we're just born and we go to school. And I had so much anxiety in middle school and high school over my tests, my exam grades, over how well I was doing in school and whether I was in the smart class. I remember so vividly I was not in the good math class in high school. And I felt so embarrassed. I felt so ashamed. I felt not smart. I just felt all these things, right? Because from such a young age, we're put into a system that is rooted in comparison. It is rooted in how do you perform relative to all these people. And recently I've really been reflecting on, like, why do I struggle so freaking hard to relax when I'm working? And now I'm working for myself, but my body still enters fight or flight. I feel so uneasy sometimes when I open up the computer. I feel so pressured. I feel honestly awful sometimes. And I've been really diving deep into this recently of being like, if I'm doing work I actually enjoy, why is it so hard for me to feel relaxed in that? And a recognition I've been having is, because I have spent 15 or so years starting from kindergarten to law school, being in a school system that is teaching me all this input. And not only that, but you're getting graded on how well can you retain that input, and not even to mention what are we even being taught in school, right? Like, what the heck is the curriculum that we were taught, right? We're pledging to an American flag. Well, what even is the history of America, right? Like, it's kind of insane when we think about it. I'm not shitting on education. I think education is great, but it's the way in which we are educated that facilitates us to become employees. It facilitates us to look to other people for answers. We're never taught how to look to ourselves. We're never taught to look to ourselves. And just like all my memories are coming back from being so scared to even like ask permission to go to the bathroom, and feeling so nervous to get up in front of the class or say something and get called on, or my homework assignment, or getting my test grade back. And from such a young age, coming home and I'd feel so anxious because I didn't know how to do math. I struggled so much with math. And why are children being placed with so much pressure at such a young age to then define their intelligence level? And we're completely missing the point. Like, you don't see that in nature. You don't see that in animals in nature go to intense schooling and you basically start working at such a young age. It doesn't make any sense. So, of course, people, whether we're in New York City or we're in any other big city and we're working so hard, we're just following what we were taught, what we were told to do, the route we were told to do of work really hard, get the job, get all the money, because then you'll be successful. And it feels extremely uncomfortable now to be in a place where no one's telling me what to do. I'm my own boss. I'm working for myself, and I'm not chasing anything. I am actually looking to just enjoy where I'm at. And that's extremely, extremely, extremely uncomfortable, because I can't think of one job I've ever been in or heard from friends where you're premised on not striving to improve your value, which is premised on knowing you are whole and complete no matter what promotion you get, no matter what grade you get, no matter what college you go to, no matter all of these things. And I just think for me, what I'm really going through right now is that recognition of holy shit, holy crap, man. Like, all of us have a lot to unlearn, and it's hard. It's scary. It's uncomfortable. But I think when you get to the other side of that, it's freedom of recognizing that none of that bullshit is really what true reality in the universe, in the cosmos, in our existence, in the scientific molecules of the energy we're all created. That is none of that, right? It is all a self-created human illusion that I'm ready to break from.
Amen. I want to redefine what hard work is, because as humans, we are hardwired to grow and to evolve. But when you take the example that you gave of being in math class and being in quote unquote dumb math, which, hello, I was too, scarred for life from math alone. And from
no wonder why we're dating. We're both in dumb math. What a great match.
80% of the population's in dumb math, I think. Which is just what a concept that you label someone at such a young age to have so much shame. And then from there, you don't even want to try. It makes me think of me, and my association with trying is the amount of shame that comes up. Because what if I fail? Or when you place a kid in quote unquote dumb math and you think they're walking to the classroom and in the hallway, they are filled with so much shame. Or like, I was filled with so much shame because I was so like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do my math. I'm not going to learn right now. I'm going to get home and teach it to myself because I'm so embarrassed that I can't even understand this. I don't want to raise my hand. I don't want to act to try. So we learn to not try. We learn to shut down. And that's on the opposite side of hard work. We're afraid. We are paralyzed. And that is what leaves us feeling empty and scared, and to look to someone else, because how could I ever have the answers? Because I have so much shame around this. I'm so fucked up because I didn't get good grades, or because I didn't have this, or because the school system didn't work for me, because I didn't have that one way of learning. I didn't win the lotto to be able to be book smart, right? it's really insane because I went to a high school where I took a placement test to get into it, and there was 3 different levels. It was quote unquote college prep, academic, and then honors. And I didn't test well, and I was put into college prep. And that made me feel like shit. I worked really hard and moved somewhat up to the mid class, but like I carried a lot of shame knowing that I didn't place well, thinking that I was dumb or that the honors kids, those are the smart kids. When in reality, what's the difference in what you're being taught? Is it the capacity? I'd be curious. How do you look at the curriculum difference, right? Do they think, oh, this person has less capacity to learn than this person? That doesn't seem to make sense to me as to why you could determine someone's capacity to learn from a test, from their ability to regurgitate and put information back out. Because what about someone who has the ability to understand what the person next to them is going through and to help them work through whatever that emotional state is? There's so much different room for different types of people to learn. And I think going back to your method that we have here of comparison, we're always comparing, oh, what'd you get in the test? What did you get in the test? What'd I get in the test? If we're always trying to compare, does that mean we're all trying to be the same thing? And, oh, we're all applying to colleges. Oh, did you get in? Did you get in? Why would we all want to be the same thing so that there can be an excess supply of a huge workforce for the select few who employ people, and they just want a good, quiet employee who can figure everything out so they can make money off of them? And that person slowly just learns that, oh, this thing that I learned to do is making someone really happy, and it's giving me all the validation. What about you and what you innately love? What about your innate talents? Do you remember those before you were told what you were good at within the education system? That's on the far right of the spectrum, that you were rewarded for your high performance within the schooling. Like, that's best case scenario. And you're still learning to get your value from outside of you. Or there's the far left side of the spectrum where you weren't a high performing student and you learned to have so much shame and you had so much fear because you thought everyone thought you were dumb. You thought everyone thought they're not going to be able to do anything. It really puts your thinking into I'm good or I'm bad. And it's such a boring way to see the world because, like you said, we aren't taught to go inward. We're taught to go outward. And it's just now where we're learning to go inward. And that is where everything can be changed. That's where we work through things. And not even that, think of the society that we've created. Think back to its origin, where before we had all of this programming of how things should be with colonization, and think about when we were humans who were one with the earth, where we learned with nature, where things weren't so binary and black and white, where we did have practices, where we did have things where we learned from each other, where we learned from the universe, where we learned from our environments. It was so much more fluid. It was so much more open. And these days it feels so rigid, so freaking rigid. And to me, it just feels like, what a boring way to live our life, trying to live for someone else. But that's what we're taught to do from day one through our schooling system. We're taught to just be an employee that will help make our nation stronger and our ecosystem stronger, right? I don't know. I'd be curious to talk with someone about this further. I'd like to learn about this further because a lot of our origin story, it's not something that we always necessarily want to hear. And the common theme here in America is that something you can make money off of. That's what our society is built around. So that's just why I'm done following this path, just kind of going back to the realizations I've had with going somewhere that's quieter and not so city and not so driven by external validation, is that it feels just really good to listen to myself for once, to listen to myself. And we can all do that, but it takes work, active deprogramming from the society we were brought up in. I know you have a lot of thoughts because I knew that was really hard for you to not interrupt me.
I have so many thoughts. You said there's so many things to say. yeah, we are grown up thinking that we all should be the same. And it's that illustration on After School YouTube page where he's citing Alan Watts. And Alan Watts is just saying we all go through the conveyor belt of basically like a factory. Like we're putting humans in and we want them to be the exact same, to work these certain jobs and become employees and be able to serve America. And yeah, the real history of America is certainly not getting taught in our school system. So what the hell are we getting taught then, right? It's just so interesting how like, yeah, we are taught to become one in the sense of become the same fixed person. And like you're saying, of course, you have one student there who maybe their skills aren't math. Ever think of that? Whoever made their freaking curriculum and we have to teach every kid math? Why would we ever fix our children or fix society to be so fixed that if you don't do well in your math class, you're a dumbass and you're not smart and you're not going to do well in life, and oh, you need to stay after school and get a tutor? How about just recognizing that we're human beings, we're complex, we are robust, we all are different, we have different skills, we think differently. Some of us may enjoy computer science, some of us may enjoy cooking, some of us may enjoy both, right? Holy shit, I'm having so many realizations just about like how much we've really just stamped, we just stamp each person like, all right, you're good to go. You got math, English, science. All right, you're gonna send you off. You're good to go for the world. And it just doesn't leave any room to be unique. It doesn't leave any room to be yourself. It doesn't leave any room to figure out who you really are apart from the system. And I was listening to our friend's podcast the other day, Dualistic Unity, and Ray was talking about how when he was in school, he asked his math teacher where pi came from, what the origin of pi is. And he was like, I'm down to learn it, but I just want to understand, like, where did we come up with this number? 3.4, whatever it is. And the teacher got really mad at him, kicked him out of class, and he got sent to like the principal's office. And what he was talking about in the podcast was because the teacher didn't know himself and was just playing the role of being the teacher. Right? And you're like, holy shit, we're all playing a role. What the hell is going on? And that's where you have that really trippy thing of like, what the hell is happening here in the system that we have created of no one knows what's going on. We're following whatever we're following. I don't really know enough about the curriculum to understand that, but why are you getting penalized for speaking up? Think about how teachers treat you growing up of like, don't talk in front of class, raise your hand. Like, you get so indoctrinated, honestly, and no wonder why we all struggle so much coming out of the workforce. No wonder why we all graduate from college feeling so anxious and stressed, because we're then taught you have to go work for the rest of your life and save for retirement, and then you'll be happy. Cash out that retirement check and you're good to go. So let me go work so hard my whole life towards a job I don't give a shit about just to get all this money so I can get a nice car, so I can get my whatever, because I'm so insecure, and then flex that to the world because I don't have a true connection with myself. So I just think it's so fascinating how we're not taught to think beyond the very rigid system of who we're supposed to be in school, and that just leaves us down a very path of when we do decide later in life or early in life to leave our jobs and pursue our passions, it becomes a very difficult endeavor because we're not used to thinking for ourselves. We're used to being told what to do. We're used to being summoned to a very fixed box, and we're not used to being able to not spend our life chasing a carrot. It looks like you're having some insight here, Daisy. And I know this has been really processing for me the past 2 days of like, no wonder why I'm struggling so much with this huge transition, because from all I know for my whole life was working really hard to strive for an end goal. What if I am striving just to be here now? Then what happened? All right, then you wouldn't have the entire workforce. What would we do then?
No, I totally get it, because in my head, as I'm thinking about this right now, of us not bad mouthing, but questioning the trajectory that we're taught throughout our entire life, I catch myself judging what we're doing here, talking about, oh, this system is messed up, it's broken, why do we do this? Because people are stuck in it and they don't know what to do. They don't want to be in it. But I think for us, we've learned to question it. And that definitely comes with criticizing it as well. And I think with that, for me, comes guilt of, oh, why do I get to criticize it? Why? What allows me to be able to say, oh, this is not right. This is fucked up. And to think that, but that's just the system I think at play working, saying like, you're not allowed to question things. You're not, people always making excuses for the reason as to why you are here, questioning it, saying something's wrong with you. They'll give a myriad of examples as if, oh, like you're just privileged, or I don't know. I think that there's a lot of guilt that comes with questioning it, because I think there are a lot of people who are trapped in it. But doesn't it come down to the reason I get to criticize this is because I'm questioning it deeply and saying, this isn't right. This is my life. I'm given a life that I get to live on my own. Why should I have to live it based off what someone else is telling me, right? Why do I have to follow someone else's playbook? Why can't I follow my own? And for whatever reason, our culture likes to say, if you're going to follow your own playbook, because people think, if you're going to follow your own playbook, that means your goal is to go start the next Facebook or the next Apple. Good luck with that. But the reality is, I think there's a whole lot of people who are out here saying, I don't want to play by this playbook. And I also don't need to have $2 million in the bank. I don't need to have all of this money. I want to have freedom. I want to have time. And I don't want to be under someone else's thumb. And I think it's kind of a new way of thinking. I think our culture has always been so money driven. And I think that there is this new interest in saying, I want to change things, but it doesn't have to be around money. Obviously, that's a component that comes into play at times, but that's not the sole thing that I'm going to say is going to fix all this. It can be so much deeper just to ask questions and to go through the discomfort. Because, right, like when you ask the question, the discomfort follows of, oh, what have I been believing my entire life? Everything is falling apart. It's really scary. But you get to a certain level where it's so empowering that you wouldn't want it any other way. Traditional old comfort becomes extreme discomfort because you're suffocating in something that is no longer serving you on this journey to push you forward. So I think I answered my own question. Anyone can question. Anyone can disagree. But it's going to come with actually having to go through the discomfort of feeling like you live in a society that you don't fit into. And I think that's changing. I think there's a lot of pockets where people feel this way. So, and I also want to say, it's like not even saying like I resent our society. Not at all. There could be a lot worse societies to live in.
Well, you are the society, right? And it's like recognizing that these people like who've created all these systems, we're all just following what or some random person wrote hundreds of years ago. Like, it's not like we're intending to corrupt our children. And maybe some people do have bad intent, but we have a system where parents have to go to get paid to pay their homes, to have a mortgage, and because we have something called money, which is the currency.
Right, we're stuck. We're stuck in
as
this.
a system. As a society, the way we built our system isn't so flawed, and it's time for an update of the system as a whole. And I think that's what COVID, it took COVID for people to recognize that we have to work from home, that we shouldn't go and sit in an office with awful lights, gluing our face down, peeling our skin to the floor, sedentary, not standing up, not walking all day. Like, it took COVID for us collectively as a society to start to say, oh, I don't want to go to the office every day. Oh, I actually don't want to spend all my time that way. And if you think about where the idea of the office comes from factory workers going back way when
well, it's interesting because the whole reason we had offices in the first place that we had to diligently go to is because we had filing cabinets. We didn't have computers. Things weren't digitalized. Like, we literally had to be in the office because all of the paperwork was in the office. So we had to go there to get it. But clearly we've surpassed that need at this point. Everything we can have in our little laptop that costs $1,000. We can take it anywhere. So like I think you said, like COVID really shook that model of we all have to be in the office. And that doesn't mean working from home is an amazing model. I think it's a complicated one. And I think it takes strong team building because I worked for a work from home first based company and it was hard. I mean, it was hard in the sense of am I really working here? Is this really something I'm a part of? Who do I work with? I've never seen them in person. I think that there's things that come with that, but I think it's good. I think things are changing. Things are being questioned. New things are being implemented. That's it. And there's going to be failures that come with that. And that's okay, because new things are being tried. And without the willingness for these companies to go out and say, you know what, I'm going to be a work from home first company. I don't know if this is going to work. At least you're trying, and there's going to be cases that can be learned from that, right? I don't think without COVID, we would have ever tried until we were forced to try it.
Well, because COVID, we finally, for the first time ever, were able to sit at home with our thoughts. Like, how scary is that? That it took a global pandemic for people to wake up and go, oh, I haven't had any time to actually connect with myself, to understand myself, to say, oh, I've been chasing the carrot on this hamster wheel at this job for so long. My life is passing me by and I don't actually want any of this. And I'm stuck in complacency. I'm stuck in fear. I'm stuck in comfort, to no one's detriment, because making extreme changes are very difficult, especially when you have to pay for your bills, especially when you have a system that is built in the way it is. And I think that's where it's like, in the same way our Apple iPhones get upgraded, we need a system upgrade. And it's interesting how you see AI now coming in. And it's interesting to think about, in the way we work is going to change. It's already changing. And then you also see this huge boom in content creator, the way that businesses now have changing, the way we can monetize our passions are changing. You have so many more self-sustained online businesses or podcasts or whatever they are room for monetizing our passions. It doesn't have to look like it once did because of technology, because we can do things like have online platforms. And I think that gives us a big way to shift and realize, oh, we don't have to follow the framework our parents followed. And isn't that the whole point of life, to keep evolving and evolving and evolving? And maybe to an extent, we shouldn't always evolve, because evolution takes us away from our base state. And maybe it's about combining of evolution with coming back to the earth, coming back to these practices that Native Americans, or they have been around for all these years, of us realizing that everything we need is already here, and just shifting a massive global awakening to understand that the answers you're looking for are within. And I do think if we look out now, the word meditate, if you Google meditation or mindfulness, it's obviously, yes, it's become trending, but my mom meditates, who's 64 years old, meditates 6 days a week. How, like, that just shows that if my mom can do that, if that's happening there, that there's a shift happening, and it's exciting.
My mind is just caught up on how you said with content creation and just with consumers wanting to consume knowledge or different types of information like podcasts, Instagram, TikTok, all of these different things. People are willing to pay for things. People have incomes and they're willing to pay extra to get this information. And think of the year 1950. Think of the options that you had. How could you make money if you weren't in a traditional job? If you weren't at that time probably a housewife with a husband who had a traditional job? Like, it was very restrictive on how we were able to live lives where we could have financial freedom. It was very difficult. I'm trying to think, like, okay, if you saved up money and you flew to a different country and you just like left the US altogether, I feel like we are very much programmed to be like, I am the person who delivers newspapers. I am the postal delivery person. I am the person who runs the corner shop. We are very steeped in the ways we made money because there was not that much opportunity. So what are we supposed to do other than to just fall heavy into the roles that we play every day? There wasn't the same opportunity that we have now. It's massively changed. And if we had to be an accountant, well, okay, maybe the other option was to go be in the creative field and to be a creative director at an advertising agency. Like, maybe that was the best you could do at that point in time to get paid a good amount of money for your creative work. But that was still working for someone. So, and you could know yourself, but how well could you know yourself in the sense of going on a spiritual journey of disconnecting from all of this altogether? And I think that's like what kind of the 70s brought, of like rejection of culture at the moment, whether that was like war or working. I think that there's just been like a constant like looking to rebrand our society, because looking around and saying, oh, like, what are our resources at this point in time? Do we have to continue teaching classrooms out of a one-room schoolhouse? Like, like, can we still have the same education system as when we were having classes in a one-room schoolhouse? So at what point can we start to integrate our resources we have into our society to make it more enjoyable for us as humans to do things that are more connected to ourselves, like this rise of, and there's always going to be two sides of the coin. Like when it comes to being quote unquote an influencer, the negative connotation with that versus being a content creator where you're really adding something to the conversation or the discussion around how to live a great life, right? The influencer connotation gets with pushing out more consumer goods that we don't really need. Like I've seen this on TikTok where it's October 31st or it's November 1st and there's influencers saying, get this brand new Christmas tree, get all of this new decor. And right, I don't think we need more of that. That just goes in line with being in our culture and consuming and consuming and consuming. Like that's the same old, just rebranded in a different way. But I think, what about this idea where we can sell things that are deeply connected to us? It makes me go back, way back in our society when there weren't many. Say you wanted to go buy a wooden spoon. There was one person in the town where you go buy that wooden spoon. There's one shoe cobbler where you go buy your shoes. But those people are deeply connected to the work they're putting out because they own their own shop. They love the goods that they create. They're passionate about it. Are we, in a way, going back to that, but in a total technology way that's a little bit different? I don't know.
I've had that thought, like, are all of these now individual businesses or solo entrepreneurs, are we going towards a time where everyone's kind of pursuing what they love and doing it on their own maybe, or smaller groups?
Well, it makes me think, like, I mean, you think of Etsy, where it's a large corporation that rises people who are making individual goods and helps them connect with a large base of buyers. There are so many people, there are so many small businesses. And if you look at a standard small business, someone is probably doing something that they somewhat feel connected to. They're doing something that they somewhat feel passionate about. At least they have the connection to themselves. I don't know. But then you look at like our big corporations. Are these two things at odds? Are big corporations the issue? I don't know. Are big corporations stripping us of our individuality in the name of growth, profit, economic growth, and profit? It kind of seems like the trajectory of these like really big corporations is to strip us of our individuality and to strip us of what it means to live life, because it's all kind of in the name of profit. Because if you think of when you go through the process of walking to someone who's in your local town, wherever you live, you know the person a little bit because you've seen them around, you're buying something that they've made, you know it's growing, the funds are going to their family, who your kids go to the same school, and you feel connected to them because you know them, you know they made this, and you know you're supporting them to live their life, and that makes you happy, versus you do one click and you order something on Amazon for that same wooden spoon. What's the transaction there? What are you gaining that's invisible from the transaction of going and buying that from someone in your town? What's the connection to that person? What's that doing for your soul, your spirit? What's all happening there versus when you, but I'm going to do it. It's easier to just order from Amazon. How long is that wooden spoon going to last you? Where was it made? Are there harmful chemicals in that wooden spoon because it was made really cheap? Yeah, maybe it's half the price, but you know what I mean? All because you want 5 wooden spoons instead of having one good wooden spoon. These are all just questions that are coming up.
Well, I think it's like convenience, right? Like if we're getting something on Amazon versus going buying like a local product from, like we were getting our furniture for our apartment and we went to Restore, which has vintage or newer furniture, and they donate it to Habitat for Humanity, and it's all used. You are going to be more individualistic. You're thinking about me. How can I get the best thing for me, quick, convenient, Amazon delivery, versus, oh, let me pay it forward. Let me buy it from someone who's put all their hard work into this or who really cares about it. And let me not think about just myself. Let me then tap into the community of life, of the fact that we are all connected and we're all going through this. And I think the more we have really been thinking about, oh, do I want to order everything on Amazon or not? And I think these decisions matter, like where we're purchasing our products. What are we supporting? People who are growing their smaller businesses, or are we resorting to things like Amazon just for our own sake, right? And I think the more we connect with ourselves, the less pain that we have in us, meaning the more that we face, the more room in our heart that we have to say, oh, it's not just about me. Because when you've healed, when you're going through the healing journey, you develop more of a capacity for openness, a more capacity for, okay, I'm going to take a little extra time to go buy this product from this person and do the research, because that's collectivism. That is working together and recognizing that we're all on this planet together. One of the biggest things that we all forget, especially being in places here like New York City where there's so much division and we're just chasing for ourselves and we're chasing the carrot, and it's just about, what about everyone else, right? What about recognizing that if all of the trees died out in nature, well, first of all, there goes our oxygen, but it is the ecosystem where we have lost sight of our collective ecosystem. And I think to tie it up to the original conversation just about unlearning all this stuff, maybe we do have to first analyze and criticize and understand what isn't working. But the exciting part is now saying, okay, what can work? And we're seeing these shifts. We're seeing emphasis on small businesses and sustainability and taking care of our earth that we live on, that we all habitate on. So change is certainly happening. And I think it's easy to feel discouraged when you highlight all this stuff. So I think it's important to close the episode on a positive, encouraging note of knowing that change is happening. And to the listeners, you are the change, right? Don't feel discouraged of saying, what can I do to make a difference? If you get that compost bin and you recognize that that's what I'm going to do, great. That makes a huge difference, because when we all take a mentality that I'm too small to make a change, that's how we fail to recognize that we are society, we are the system, and we have to stand up. We have to use our voices. We have to say what it is that we see. We have to call out the flaws in the system, because we are meant to evolve. So I think this was a really awesome episode. And there's a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm there. And yeah,
there's a lot that just came out that I didn't even know was in there, because we're all processing it. But I think, right, if we're unlearning all that we were told, how we were told to interact with society, if we're unlearning that, of course we're going to be questioning, how do we show up in society? What do we support in society? How can we help empower others to realize they don't have to be connected to the negative parts of our society that split them from themselves and their individuality? How do we encourage others to embrace their individuality, right? So I think it was natural that our conversation flowed to questioning, where do we buy things? What really matters? Convenience? Or is it really about having less things? And is it about forming connections around the things we buy and with the people we buy them with? I think it's all important things, because it's all about, how do we change our society? And it all starts with, how do you change what you're doing every single day? How do you change the way you view yourself? Because it all starts with you, because there's a very fine line between you and you as the whole, as in everyone. We are all the same. We are all made of the same stuff. We are all sharing the same consciousness. We all just interact differently. But I think the more we get tapped into our individuality and we get connected to ourselves, the more able we are going to be to see that in others, and to encourage that in others, and to see ourselves in others, and to overall have a community and a society that we're proud of and that we want to contribute to, and that at the end of the day, we are just proud of and we feel love towards. And I think, like Sophie said, there's a lot of things where we are going in that direction. There's a lot of negative information coming in as well, saying, but this is not right. This isn't enough. It's like, just keep fighting that good fight. Keep waking up every day trying to be how you want to see the world, right?
Well, we're healing the world, right? Like, it's in the same way when we're healing ourselves, the rocks are going to come up. We're going to have to face the stuff that's been in us. We have to face our old thought pattern. It's the same way we have to face how our system has been. And when we heal ourselves, we're healing the whole, and that's where we can have a whole connected earth. And I think it's a beautiful journey, and I'm excited to be on it. And I think that's what Life Unpotted is. It is helping people wake up, helping people recognize that we don't have to fight against each other. We all are on this earth together, and we can make the decision to just make lifestyle changes that will help us completely shift our life, completely shift the earth. Because if everyone decided today, they all go, all right, guys, everyone on earth, let's just decide we're done. We're done with everything that's wrong for the earth. We're done with all the poison. We're done with all the problems. We're done with all the fighting. We're good. Let's just change everything right now. Like, we almost think that there's, I guess that's how where hierarchies come in, but we almost think that, like, it's not just us doing it. Like, there's another species doing it. Like, it's all just us. And that's why this conversation is so important, because it helps you take accountability and helps you gain understanding and awareness to understand that it starts with you.
Well, we can't ask for permission. You just have to go, because if you're asking someone for permission who doesn't understand what you're asking, they're going to say no. They're going to give you the response that they give everyone, right? You just have to pave your own way, knowing that you believe in it, even if no one else sees it, and knowing that that's inherently what's better for the world. And eventually people are going to start to notice a difference, and they're going to start to question and be like, how can I do that? And I think that's the journey, and it's trusting you. It starts with you. It starts with you understanding, well, what do I want? And that's not even career-wise. That's saying, how do you want to live your life? How does my inner world want to experience this reality? I think that's the question we have to start asking ourselves, instead of, how do I want to make money and support myself? Because that all follows how we want our inner world to experience this reality. That is ultimately what makes up our experience here, is how deep, how rich our inner world is. So how do we want that inner world to be? How can we amplify ourselves to have a deep connection with ourselves? How do we want that to look? Because that's ultimately going to unfold into every aspect of our life. We don't have to just be sitting here thinking, what do I want to do with my life? What do I want to do with my life? I don't think that's the right question. The right question is saying, how do I want to show up? How do I want to feel? That's a good one. Can you feel, right? So it all starts with feeling, because it's not until we feel that we can feel connected to ourselves and then everything else. And that's where the change is made, right? So I feel good about this conversation.
I'm excited. We're in New York. We're visiting one of our best friends, and excited for the evening, excited to connect with our friends. And look, that's what life's about, right? Connecting with yourself, connecting with your community, and just enjoying it, enjoying the ride without pressuring yourself, without needing things to go a certain way, just letting it be as it is. So thank you all so much for listening. We really appreciate you being along this ride of waking up the world, recognizing who we really are, and allowing us to really enjoy life. So thank you for listening, and we will talk to you guys on Thursday.
Tune in on Thursday for our community series, and we look forward for you all to stay on this journey with us. And if you ever feel like you want to be a part of a real community where you're not just listening to us talk, join our community Zooms. Every Tuesday we have them at 6 o'clock Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And each time we have these, we experience them differently, and we always leave feeling just connected and seen, and it's always a beautiful experience. So feel free to join, cameras off, whatever you want to do, but we hope to see you there. And until next time, everyone.